Now here we have in this a higher magnification. It's actually a brilliant picture made by this website, Dr. Lib or Lib Info. It's amazing picture actually that shows you guys here as a recap that you have the intermediate mesoderm on the either sides of the aorta. That's gonna give you the urogenital ridge, and in the urogenital ridge we call it urogenital because part of it is responsible for the uro part, which is the kidney, and part of it is the genital part. So you have the genital ridge, all right, and the genital ridge will form the capsule of your testis or ovary, and then you have the coelom. Guys, this is the intraembryonic coelom, all right? Remember, this is the blue. This is the intraembryonic coelom, the cavity inside the fetus. And the epithelium is going to invaginate to give you the 6 cords, and that is going to give you further, if it's a male, it's going to give you the seminiferous tubules. If it's going to be a female, it's going to give you the follicular cells, all right? And then the primordial germ cells are going to migrate from the mesentery of the hindgut, coming all the way from the yolk sac to go all the way and fill in all these 6 cords, finally with the oogonia or the spermatogonia. How do we determine whether we get into the male or female? By the presence of the SRY gene, the sex determining factor, Y protein. If we have it, we're gonna proceed with the male stuff. If we don't have it, we're gonna proceed with the female related stuff. All right. So that is the components of the testis and ovary, and you guys now understand from where we get the components of both of them. Now with further development, guys, I just want you to know that the cortex in the ovary, it's gonna thicken. All right, it's gonna thicken, and you will have all the developing follicles in the cortex. However, it's gonna thin in the male, forming only a very thin layer outside with the tunica albuginea, all right, covering the bulk of the testis itself. And remember that your the developing ovary is in the cortex, the thick cortex, and in the medulla you have here your blood vessels. However, here everything is in the medulla itself, and the capsule or the cortex is very thin, and it doesn't have your spermatogonia. This is a huge difference between the ovary and testis, all right? And this is a very beautiful picture to show you the whole story of the formation of ovary and testis. Now, if you guys look laterally in the intermediate mesoderm, laterally, you will find that, can you guys see this green color? This is gonna be the paramesonephric ducts. So remember that when we said that this is the urogenital ridge, we said that we have the nephrogenic cord, and the nephrogenic cord give you pronephros, mesonephros, and metanephros. And remember that the mesonephric duct is going to help in the formation of the tubular system in male, and it's not going to give you anything in female. And laterally you will have the paramesonephric ducts, and this is on the lateral aspects. All right, so in the medial aspect we have the genital ridge that give me the capsule, and in the lateral aspect we have the paramesonephric ducts. And this is basically an invagination. I'm going to talk about the paramesonephric duct later on, but I just want you to see that the whole story is, they are all near to each other, guys. This is a beautiful picture. All right, guys, so this is showing you basically everything in the formation of the reproductive system. Half story, of course, because the lower half is going to come from the cloaca, and we're going to talk about that as we proceed. All right, so get back to this picture when we finish the whole thing. Get back to this and try to recall everything happened in this videos, all right, of the reproductive system development. Okay. So remember, this is a beautiful summary. I just made it for you guys to remember, because this is an area of a huge exam question. Remember that the genital ridge was giving you everything related to connective tissue. It was giving you the capsule, tunica albuginea, the stroma, the septa around the testis. All right, guys, so this is all connective tissue. And remember that the Leydig cell is actually coming from the genital ridge. And you might get confused in the exam and say, oh my God, I can't remember whether the Leydig cell or the Sertoli is coming from the genital ridge or coelomic epithelium. Remember, guys, the genital ridge is giving you connective tissue stuff. And the Leydig cell is actually sitting in the interstitial spaces. It's sitting in the connective tissue. So it makes sense that the genital ridge giving me all connective tissue related structures. However, the coelomic epithelium, which is the invagination. Remember, guys, the epithelium that was lining the intraembryonic coelom, the cavity in the embryo, that was invaginating, giving me the 6 cords. It's gonna also give me the retitestis and the Sertoli cells. All right, guys, so remember the coelomic epithelium, C, is gonna give me S structures, the 6 cords, S structures. All right. Now here in female, in the ovary, yes, of course, the genital ridge will give me the capsule and connective tissue stuff, all right? And the coelomic epithelium will invaginate also to give me the follicular cells by becoming segmented, and the primordial germ cells coming from the yolk sac, migrating all the way from the mesentery of the hindgut to reach here and fill in the seminiferous tubules with the spermatogonia, or the follicular cells with the oogonia. Okay, guys, this is a summary of the development of the ovary and testis. Now, what about the paramesonephric duct? Coming back to this beautiful picture, remember that we are in the region of the intermediate mesoderm. Of course, I'm not seeing intermediate mesoderm at this stage because now we are further developing. Now, remember, guys, in the lateral parts, lateral to the mesonephric ducts, we have the paramesonephric ducts. All right, so paramesonephric ducts laterally. And these actually formed by invagination of the coelomic epithelium. So I mentioned coelomic epithelium invagination twice. I mentioned it medially at the genital ridge area, where I got the 6 cords that gave me seminiferous tubules and follicular cells, and I mentioned it laterally when it invaginated, form a tubule-like structure, which is what we call the paramesonephric ducts. That will form the female-related stuff, okay? Still, we didn't talk about the mesonephric duct itself. But do you guys relate now that we talked about the invagination of coelomic epithelium? The coelomic epithelium is basically the epithelium that lines the cavity of the embryo. This is the cavity inside, all right? And this is the germ layers. The mesoderm, all right? Now, medially, invagination give me the 6 cords. Laterally, invagination forming tubular-like structure, the green one, is the paramesonephric duct. All right? Now, what is going to happen as the paramesonephric ducts, and we have another name, guys, for the mesonephric and paramesonephric. You can remember it by W and M. Wolffian duct is what gives you the male tubular reproductive system, and the Mullerian is what gives you the female. Wolf, I like to remember that wolves is for men, okay? So wolves, it's gonna give you the male related structure, and the Mullerian is gonna give you the female related structure. What happens is the paramesonephric ducts or Mullerian ducts, as they come close to each others, we will have them the upper portion of it will become at the beginning vertical, the middle portion will become like it's gonna be vertical, and then the middle portion will become horizontal, and then the lower portion will become vertical. So we have vertical, horizontal, and then vertical. They will come together, the 2 paramesonephric ducts, they're gonna fuse together, and then the septum between them should resorb. All right, so the resorption of the septum between them will give you the uterus, the cervix, and the upper 1/3 of the vagina. So guys, the paramesonephric ducts will give you the oviduct, the uterus, the cervix, this part is the cervix, all right, and the upper 1/3 of the vagina. Now, what about the lower 2/3? We're going to talk about that as we introduce a new player here, which is the cloaca, guys. The cloaca, we're going to talk about the cloaca. So do you understand now the paramesonephric duct? What does it give you in female? Okay, based on what we're gonna have the proliferation of paramesonephric duct. Now let's look at the mesonephric and paramesonephric and understand based on what. If you have the SRY gene, it means this is a male gene. The SRY gene is going to stimulate two important cells, the Leydig cells and the Sertoli cells. If I stimulate the Leydig cell, all right, I will have the testosterone. If I have testosterone, I will do proliferation to the mesonephric duct. Now, if I stimulate the Sertoli cell, I will release the anti-Mullerian hormone, which is going to seize the proliferation of paramesonephric duct. Okay, guys, this is very important. Okay, remember, if I have the male gene, that will stimulate the Leydig cell to give me testosterone. Testosterone is going to activate proliferation of mesonephric duct to give me the male tubular system, the whole male tubular system. And it will stimulate the Sertoli to give me anti-Mullerian hormone that is going to cause the paramesonephric duct to regress and regression of it, and it's gonna give me at the end prosthetic utricle. So nothing is gonna happen to the paramesonephric duct. It's going to stop and it's not going to proliferate. It means I am in the male system. So the green one is the mesonephric duct. The orange one is the paramesonephric duct. Paramesonephric duct is not proliferating because of the anti-Mullerian hormone from Sertoli cell. Mesonephric duct is going to further develop to give me the tubular system, which is basically the epididymis, the retitestis, the ductus deferens, the efferent ductules here, these efferent ductules, and then the ductus deferens all the way up until the seminal vesicle. So all the green people are coming from the seminiferous tubules under the influence of testosterone from Leydig cell, which was stimulated by the SRY gene. Now, if I don't have the SRY gene, it means I don't have testosterone. It means the mesonephric duct is going to regress, all right? So regression of the green one, it's going to happen if I don't have testosterone, and because I don't have anti-Mullerian hormone, the paramesonephric duct is going to proliferate and give me the story I explained previously, to give me the uterine tube, the uterus, the cervix, and the upper 1/3 of the vagina. All right, guys, and this is a summary to show you what happens here in the presence of SRY gene, the green one under the influence of the testosterone, and the regression of the orange one is under the influence of anti-Mullerian hormone, one by Leydig cell, one by Sertoli cell. However, if I don't have the SRY gene, it means there will neither be proliferation of mesonephric duct nor regression of paramesonephric duct. It means I will get into the female stuff. So if I have SRY, male related stuff. If I don't have it, female related stuff. And now you understand what happens here and then there. All right, so with this slide we understand that the gonads, the gonads with the three parts coming from the genital ridge give me the capsule and the connective tissue. We understand the six cords coming from the invagination of the coelomic epithelium and the primordial germ cells that came from the yolk sac, migrated all the way here. And now we're completing the story with the seminiferous tubules, the male tubular system, which is the retitestis, the efferent ductules, the vas deferens, and the seminal vesicle. Now we completed the third of the story. So with the gonad 1/3, with the tubular system 1/3, and we're going to talk about the last 1/3 when we talk about the external genitalia. Now coming back to this, you understand the ovary, how did it form, and you understand how the oviduct, the uterus, cervix, and upper vagina formed by the paramesonephric duct. All right, now let's complete the story and see what happens down, guys. Now when we go down, we need to talk about an important structure called cloaca. What is cloaca? Guys, cloaca is a chamber. It's an endoderm chamber at the end of the gut tube. You guys understand that we have a gut tube, right? We have a lower end of it called cloaca, guys. The cloaca is going to meet with the surface ectoderm at something called cloacal membrane. And the cloacal membrane, guys, it's very important because we're going to talk about it as we explain the external genitalia. But for now, remember that the cloaca, guys, it's the lower end endoderm line chamber of your hindgut. The cloaca, you guys, you will have it with further development is going to be divided by something called urorectal septum. Why do we call it urorectal? Because it's gonna give me urogenital part and rectal part. All right, guys? So with the urorectal septum, it's gonna give me urogenital part and rectal part. Okay, guys? So I had a chamber at the end of the hindgut, endoderm, all right? And with the septum, we call it cloaca. It divided the cloaca into urogenital sinus and rectum and anal canal with the urorectal septum. The urorectal septum will give me superior portion. It's going to give me what will give me the bladder and the urogenital sinus. And in the inferior portion, we have the rectum and anal canal, which doesn't concern me now because this is not digestive system. Now, why am I doing this in bold? Because this is going to complete my story. I need the urogenital sinus now because I want you to understand the remaining of the female genital system. How is it gonna form? So, guys, now you understand what is cloaca and what is urogenital sinus. All right, and also the male, of course, not only female. Now, what happens is, guys, if you guys look at these now these pictures here, this is the following picture of it, showing you how in male development what happens and what happens in the female development. In the male development, guys, now you understand that with the urorectal septum, we had people in front superiorly, people at the back inferiorly, and the same thing happens, of course, here. And the urogenital sinus is what concerns me, because the urogenital sinus is gonna give me the lower part of the vagina, the hymen, the vestibule, and the urethra. Okay, guys, the urogenital sinus will complete the female story. All right, and the male, it's gonna give me the bulbourethral gland, the prostate, and also urethra. Parts of the urethra, of course, not all of it. All right, guys, so the urogenital sinus of the cloaca, as you look at this picture, that doesn't concern me, the anal part or the rectal part, that doesn't concern me. The bladder also doesn't concern me. What concerns me is the definitive urogenital sinus that will come from down here. Can you guys see? It will come from here, the urogenital sinus, to meet the people coming from the paramesonephric duct fusion and formation, to give you the lower 2/3 of the vagina, the vestibule, the hymen, all right, and the urethra in female. And of course, you understand that the paramesonephric duct, when it came here, it's going to undergo the regression and to give you the prosthetic utricle. You might get this as a question in the exam. What is the homologous of the paramesonephric duct in male? It's the prosthetic utricle. So it degenerates here and it just gives me the prosthetic utricle. All right, so it's very important you understand that the urogenital sinus of your cloaca is going to complete the story of your system. And this is how a nice summary of how the urogenital sinus is going to give you the bulbourethral gland, prostate, urethra in male, and you will have the lower 2/3 of the vagina, vestibule, and urethra coming from the urogenital sinus when it was trying to meet the people coming from the paramesonephric duct. So here we completed the whole story in the showing you here early development, how the urogenital sinus was meeting the paramesonephric ducts, and with further development, canalization of the vagina, they will start to become continuous together all right, to complete the whole story. And this is a nice picture to show you the how the mesonephric ducts and the paramesonephric ducts give me the uterus, all right, and the mesonephric duct give me the male duct system, with the paramesonephric duct regressing into, what's my problem with the regression word today? It's going to give me the prosthetic utricle. And with the female, we will have, of course, the fallopian tubes, the uterus, and the upper 1/3 of the vagina, and the cervix, all right?